Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I'd like to continue on with our discussions of 1970s disaster movies. And the one that I wanted to speak about a little bit today was released in 1975. And the director is Junya Sato. And it stars, among others, in its great cast, Ken Utsui and Sunny Chiba and Ken Takakura. And this is a film which is called, in Japanese, Shinkansen Dai Bakuha. It is sometimes referred to in English as The Bullet Train. Now, I have here the Japanese Blu-ray release, the Japanese release version of the film on Blu-ray. It's a great Blu-ray, but it doesn't have any English subtitles in case you are curious about that. And I do know it has been released, say, outside of Japan on a number of releases from a number of labels, and it might be available elsewhere. In case you're interested, I've taken the liberty of writing out on top here the English title that it's often referred to as The Bullet Train. And the bottom is the English writing out of the Japanese title itself. So Shinkansen Dai Bakuha. So in case you're interested, if you want to make a note of this, you can pause this video and then just write down the title, and we can go from there. But in any event, this is called Shinkansen Dai Bakuha, often referred to in English as The Bullet Train. The story is a very exciting one. It involves a train, and it involves a commuter passenger train that goes at very high speeds. It's called the Shinkansen, and in particular there's one Shinkansen here, a voyage that is from Tokyo, and it's quite a packed one in terms of the passengers on board. And we realize, or the train conductor and also the train company and also the various authorities realize that this particular train, it's known as the Hikari 109, is under a particular threat from a group or a terrorist, essentially, that is claiming that there is a bomb on board the train. And if the train that's going at high speeds falls under a particular speed, and I understand it's 80 kilometers per hour, if it falls below a certain speed, then the bomb will be triggered and it will explode. And so under this threat, the people on the train and also the people outside in the control center, as well as the authorities that are trying to track down the terrorist group, essentially, or the people that are behind this bomb threat. So all these various factions or groups of people or characters are trying, in essence, to handle this particular high-octane situation of a bomb on a speeding train. And the speeding train cannot fall below a certain speed. And so I think for those who maybe know later 90s cinema and the cinema of Keanu Reeves and Dennis Hopper and Sandra Bullock, this plot might sound similar. And so this does feel like, the film Speed does feel like the certain plot elements that could be said to be similar, very similar to those of this film Shinkansen Dai Bakuha. The film that we have here is a type of police procedural, as well as a mystery, as well as a disaster film. And the disaster film element, and also it's a type of a crisis film, and it's not just a police procedure, but it's also a train procedural as well. There are moments when we're in the hub, the central hub of operations, and we see how these particular people are trying to in essence, avert disaster to make sure that the train doesn't slow down while also avoiding oncoming trains, because this isn't the only train. There are many other trains that are involved in Japan, so we have to be sure that the train doesn't crash into something else, it doesn't slow down, it doesn't stop at stations, and so there's this control aspect that is under a lot of stress, and we see that especially through the character of Ken Utsui and the character that he plays. There's also the panic within the train cars and the passengers, and the particular passengers that we meet, and the stress that that causes. So this brings in the disaster film element as well as the train conductor, the person that's trying to essentially steer the train and make sure it doesn't fall below a certain speed, or it has to pick up speed in order to, as I say, avoid collision with an oncoming train, etc. So that's the Sunny Chiba character. And we have the hunt outside of this particular scenario as to who is behind this particular threat. And we see the police authorities trying to track down the ransom, because there's a ransom involved, a large sum of money that's involved. And we see various people in levels of government as well. There's a great cameo by the very famous actor called Takashi Shimura. And this also brings us to the storyline involving the character played by the legend, that is Ken Takakura. Now, as you can see, there is, I think, a lot of building, of suspense and setup. And I mentioned it before, high-octane thrills, and it's involving this moving train. And so I think in those ways it falls within the disaster genre. And also it's 1975, so it's a 1970s disaster film in that perspective. It also does a very interesting thing, which is it focuses in also on the people behind this particular threat. And in an interesting way, provides a certain level of drama as to their stories. They aren't purely villains in that sense. I mean, they are doing very bad things, as we acknowledge, but they have motivations behind their very bad acts. And we see, through the way in which information is presented in this film, we see the reasons why they do what it is they do. And there's a group of people, and we see each of them through certain sets of, say, flashback or montage or something that gives us an indication as to why indeed they have made the choices that they have done. And we see how they are trying to cope with this particular implementation of the plan in real time. Again, the idea is somehow trying to put a bomb on board a passenger train in order to extort a large sum of money. And so this is the essential plot. So in fact, it feels almost like a caper film or heist film, as well as being a type of disaster film. And that caper or heist film genre oftentimes relies on the backstory of the antagonist group. And through certain tools of cinema, maybe we can begin to, maybe not wholly sympathize with what it is they're doing, but just begin to understand the reasons why. And that makes, I think, the portrait much more complex and nuanced and dense. And I think it's due also in large part to the on-screen charisma of Ken Takakura, who is the actor who is part of this heist aspect of the film, or caper aspect of the film. Now, Ken Takakura, as an actor, is one of the most famous, or he was one of the most famous legends in Japanese cinema screen history. And he was a superstar, and his legacy is quite legendary. And I must say that I'm a big fan of Ken Takakura films. My father too was a big fan of Ken Takakura films, and so his status, his legendary status, his iconic status in Japanese cinema is really of a certain type of height and coolness. And so to have him in this particular antagonist role, this main antagonist role, also allows for a sense of sympathy to a certain degree that we as viewers might afford to him and to his particular plight, even as he is enacting these pretty bad acts, which we also see have very dramatic and significant and quite quite scary effect on the various people that are affected, such as the people that are in the control hub, the people who are trying to investigate, and also the people on the train itself who are in the direct vicinity of the threat. That is the train conductor and also the passengers, the innocent passengers. And yes, we get a little bit of the passenger story, and we see how the panic as it sets in affects them, and we see the types of stresses that are involved on all levels. And so Ken Takakura's character's acts are not in any way type of a virtuous thing, of course, because they are quite devastating or potentially devastating, as we understand, but also there's a sense of getting information as to exactly why he is doing what it is he is doing. And that gives us an interesting set of balance. There's also, I think, a nuanced sense of maybe social commentary embedded in the Ken Takakura story, because we have the story of maybe, for lack of a better phrase, social misfits that due to, say, economic turns, maybe they have lost their jobs or have maybe reached certain difficult situations, both emotionally and financially, that causes them, each of them in their own way, to decide to do what it is they do. So there is, I think, a subtle hint of social commentary of 1970s Japan and Japanese economy. It seems like a successful boom one, but maybe it's leaving some people behind at the same time. And I think that is embedded in that particular story. But of course, it is also a thrilling, as I say, it's a thrilling, scary, suspenseful film that is also police procedural and also a crime caper and also a mystery, and it is a disaster film involving a high-speed train that cannot fall below a certain speed, lest it risk the lives and safety of all concerned. This is the film which is called, in English oftentimes, The Bullet Train, or in Japanese, Shinkansen Dai Bakuha. Okay, my friends, so that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. I very much appreciate it. Stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.